Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? I don't even
I
know.
think I worked from home yesterday, so my sense of time is all thrown off.
I think it's Tuesday. I'm
Tuesday.
pretty sure it's Tuesday. I'm Claire Jones. I'm a queer fantasy romance author, as well as a small publisher that supports other writers in getting their works shared with the world. And we are jumping on for my Marketing as Authors podcast, where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the marketing strategies that have hopefully propelled our writing careers forward in meaningful ways. If you're joining us, please like, comment, share below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to EM. So nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I asked you before we jumped on here where actually I found you. And I think we decided it was EIQ, which is Everywhere is Queer, which is an amazing app. If you haven't already looked it up, audience, definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'm impressed that I remembered that. I was just like, I don't know, you reached out through my website, but yeah, everywhere is queer. So they have a newsletter also. I actually am not I'm signed up on the website. I'm not on the app because I am a grumpy old man and I hate apps. But I get the newsletter and I find a lot of new queer businesses that way.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you haven't checked it out, please do. So, first, let's get a rundown of your books. What are they? How many? What do you have planned coming up?
Sure. So I have two books out now. I have The Remarkable Retirement of Edna Fisher, which came out in 2023 with a small press. So that is about an 83-year-old who leads the senior home for fantastical adventure when she learns she's the chosen one.
I
Uh,
love it.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then just earlier this year with HarperCollins, I had The Keeper of Lonely Spirits. So that released in the US and Canada, and then actually just today released in Australia and New Zealand, apparently.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was fun. I came home from a book event trip and there was just like a box from my publisher with three Australian copies, and I was like, cool, didn't know I was getting this. Awesome. So yeah, that's exciting.
What makes the Australian copies different, if anything?
They're paperbacks, so they only came
Okay.
out in hardcover here, so they're paperbacks, which was kind of cool. There's like slight change to where things are on the cover. Like I have two book blurbs from some other authors that I admire and am friends with, and both their blurbs I think are on the back on the hardcover, and then the front says like a novel.
Mm,
And so the Australians were like, we know it's a novel, and they just put one of the book blurbs on the front instead, which was really nice to see. Actually, I really liked that. It was just exciting that I was like, cool, people can like get this there now and they don't have to pay $1 million in shipping. Uh,
yeah. Did they
yeah,
have to switch it over to British English?
not as far as I can tell, but I haven't read through it yet. But I was a
Okay.
little curious. I was like, will they? But I think there was something in the book synopsis that would have changed if, and I don't think it did. I
Okay.
don't know. I have to like read through it and just like check because I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
But that's always how I hear from friends it happens. They're like, yeah, translations just show up, and that's how you know you sold translation rights or foreign rights. And I'm like, cool. So yeah, so that just came out in paperback literally today over there, which is neat. And then I have a book coming out next July. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, then you got the title in your inbox. And if you don't subscribe to my newsletter, I will reveal it eventually.
There you
Probably
go.
links. I have no links for it yet. So probably once I have like Goodreads links and pre-orders links and all that. But that one is actually cozy horror. It was supposed to be another cozy fantasy like the last one, and then I ended up leaving comments in my manuscript for my editor, like, can this happen? And it's still cozy, asking for a friend. And she was like, yes, but now it's cozy horror. And I was like,
Okay, how do you make horror cozy?
you know what? That was because I am not a horror girly, gender neutral. I like gothic horror, and that's pretty much it. I'm like, if it's not gothic horror, then
Okay,
it's too scary. I mean,
okay,
gothic horror is scary, but like I can deal with that kind of scare.
sure.
Otherwise, I'm like, I can only handle like a slasher if it's like for middle grades or
Okay.
like I want, I
So
want
we're
it for
talking
kids.
like
That's the
Goosebumps?
level. Yeah. And so like a couple years ago at this point, like a discourse around about cozy horror went around on Twitter, and I just didn't join in because I was like, those two ideas are opposed in my head, but
Yeah.
I'm not a horror person, so what do I know? And then I read John Wiswell's Someone You Can Build a Nest In, which had been described to me as cozy horror, and then I was like, oh, that is what it is. So like it has those horror elements. Like I mean there's like people are getting eaten and stuff and the main character can
Okay.
shapeshift, but it's like she needs like physical objects kind of inside her body to help her take form, and it sounds very unpleasant. Um,
Yeah.
there's some very visceral imagery, but there's also like a romance going on and found family and like there's
Okay.
cozy. it's cozy horror. Like you just kind of have to read it. Like it's just
Okay.
it's cozy horror. So yeah, so this book has like some queer romance going on, and then like found family, and then also like just like non-found biological family, and like a sentient plant creature and stuff. But also there's a sentient forest that's kind of trying to murder people, but also it has good reasons for trying to murder people. So yeah, it has like some more horrific things that happen, but like still with the trappings of coziness.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm absolutely intrigued because I've been recently dipping my toe into dark romance and exploring the whole like serial killer romance genre. And so I guess now I need to try out cozy horror.
Yeah, yeah, like it just right. Because when I heard of it, I was like, I don't know what that would even look like. And then I read one book and I was like, oh, that's what it would look like. And then I like kind of accidentally stumbled into writing it. So now I'm like, oh, now I have even more of an idea of what it looks like, I guess.
Why cozy as the overarching umbrella?
Like in general or
Mhm.
like for this book specifically?
For the three books, because they're
Oh,
all
for the
under
three
the
books.
cozy.
Yeah. So the first one I don't typically advertise as cozy just because the stakes are higher than so that's one typical element of like a cozy. So like think about cozy mystery. Like there's been a murder, but like you know that the main character is gonna be fine in the end. Like they're
Yeah.
not gonna get got by the murderer, even if it kind of comes close. Any children in the book are gonna be fine, any pets in the book are gonna be fine. So like you can still have these things happen, but there's an overall sense of safety in that like things will be okay in the end. And then generally like lower stakes, like you're not saving the world, you're like,
Mhm.
there may be more internal stakes or a relationship or just like a single town or whatever. I like cozy as a reader for this reason as well, and also I've been not dark romance but other romance I've also been very much more into since 2020 because I'm like, I need that guaranteed HEA, please, I'm begging.
I feel that.
Yeah. So I think much like romance, cozy genres are like they basically just provide a safe space to explore like darker topics.
Mm.
Like, okay, like actually the day that my previous book released, and like it's cozy, but it's also very sad. It deals very
Mhm.
heavily with grief. It is a sad book, and all the characters are going through it, but it's cozy. And like the same day that dropped, this article dropped, like an opinion piece that was like the thing that's missing from cozy books, pain. And I just started giggling because I was like, of all the things someone could have written on the day my very painful cozy fantasy came out, it was this. So I think some people think of it as like just fluffy, and it can be, much like there can be romance that's really just fluffy, and that's fine. And some people want that. But it encompasses more than that. And what I am looking for and what I'm interested in is just that it provides a safe space to like explore trauma and difficult topics because you know things will be okay at the end. And you know that things will be like it's just generally it's like a safe space and you
Yeah.
can deal with those topics. And I love dealing with those topics, but I'm also very small and soft and I need it to be okay in the end.
Yeah, because I have to admit, the only certifiably cozy book that I've read so far is Legends and Lattes.
Oh sure. Yeah.
And I honestly, it stressed me out. And I think it's particularly because it's like a business building based narrative. And being someone who's been in the business building business, wow, say that 10 times fast, for like over a decade, I like couldn't set aside my suspension of disbelief in the fact of like she builds a business off the power of friendship and a magic rock.
You're just like waiting for the moment that it all goes south, like creditors come around or something and she loses everything. Like, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, as someone who has no interest in building a business, I was good with that. I was like, yeah, everything's fine. This is cool. Whatever.
And so I've been meaning to like also dip my toe back into the cozy, but I also would this is something that I've been talking about a lot lately is how well of a vehicle fantasy and sci-fi is for dealing with those dark topics like you're talking about. Um, and I do understand the need to have a cozier, safer setting for dealing with those issues. Me, I go deep into the meat with those issues and cry and mourn and rage with those issues within the external vehicle of fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah, I do think it's easier. Like, even with cozy books, I'm like, I probably need to stick with fantasy because I think if I tried writing these same issues just in like a contemporary novel that was just, that was just contemporary and had no murder mystery and no sci-fi fantasy elements or anything. I'm like, that's too close to home. So we're gonna
Yep.
bury that under a few more layers of the fantastical.
Yep. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I couldn't read Leigh Bardugo's Sixth House. Is that the one?
Oh, I haven't, I'm aware of it. I haven't read it.
Whole premise is that the stockbrokers on Wall Street are using witchcraft to enhance their Wall Street capabilities. And I was like, that is way too close. I cannot read this.
For me, it was the sequel to T.J. Klune's House in the Cerulean Sea,
Oh,
Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and it's kind of like a trans allegory. And I only got through chapter three, and then I was like, "This is about to get way too real for me, and I cannot read this right now." So I hope to eventually get back to it. I have a friend who is hopefully going to read it first and like give me probably like I'm like I want full spoilers for this book. I need to
yeah.
be totally mentally aware for everything that's going to happen, or I'm not going to be able
Yeah.
to handle it. And like that is cozy. Like that's like that House in the Cerulean Sea is like how like that's an example of like a cozy fantasy. But the
Yeah.
second book, I'm like, there's like a trial, and they're gonna try to discredit him based on his identity, and I'm like, nope, can't do it. It's too
Yeah.
real. Maybe
Yeah.
someday, but not in the times we are living in right now.
Yeah. I'm currently going through it with Jiren J. Zhao's sequel to Iron Widow. And it's just like way too close to reality. I know it's like ancient Chinese sci-fi, but at the
Where
same
you're
time,
like this, I'm seeing too many parallels. Yeah.
not like it's a very big,
And I know for some people, like that's cathartic. Like they
yeah,
want to see, they're like, the closer it is, the more I can deal with it. And I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I need it to not be that real because it needs
yeah,
to be buried under several more layers for me before I can handle that. And I
yeah.
maybe need spoilers and like.
Yeah, I just loved Iron Widow so much that I knew I was gonna love the sequel too, but it's been painful for me to get through the sequel. I had to set it aside for a little bit. I'm gonna come back to it.
I did that reading Frederick Bachman's Beartown, which
Mhm.
apparently has a sequel, and I'm like, I don't think I can read the sequel because Beartown deals with like a sexual assault, but like done by like the town's golden boy, who's
Oh,
like the hockey star and whatever. So I think I read like half of it, and then I set it aside for several weeks, and then I finished it in one night because every time I got to a point where the characters are okay, I read like a little too far where it wasn't okay, and then I was like, no. So I just had to keep reading until it was done. And then I was like, okay, that was lovely, and I'm probably never reading it again, and I don't think I can read the sequel, but I'll go back and read his other books because I
yeah,
love his other books. But like it was just I think I was reading it like not too long after kind of the height of the Me Too movement too, and I was like, this is too real for
yeah,
what's happening right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, obviously you're an avid reader. Has that always been true?
Oh yeah, I'm like from a whole family of readers, so we've always I read a lot less than I used to because I'm old and tired and I have a day job. But yeah, I do still love reading and I try to make time for it.
Was it fantasy back in the day and that kind of genre?
Yeah, I'm sort of a genre jumper, so as I mentioned, I think especially since 2020 I've really like doubled down on romance because I'm
Hmm.
like I would like to know everything's gonna be okay in the end.
Yeah,
I also do love cozy mystery. Not as big on like thrillers and stuff, although sometimes I like I can't really ever be like I don't like this genre because I'm like you never know. There could be a book in that genre that just will really speak to me. So yeah, like heavily fantasy, but definitely like other genres as well.
yeah, yeah. Fantasy and romance are my go-to genres, and that's been true since I was a little like I accidentally read my first romance novel in third grade, and I've been obsessed since then.
See, now there was me fully in like eighth grade reading The Princess Diaries, and it mentioned French kissing, and I was like, I think this is too mature for me. So I had to like set it aside. Like my parents did not control what I read, but I control what I read.
Oh, that's so funny. So is that what led you into writing?
I don't know. Everybody always wants to know like how did you know or when did you know you wanted to be a writer? And I don't know or I don't remember. I do have ADHD, so maybe just legitimately don't remember. Yeah, I was always a reader. My grandfather was a writer. Like he didn't publish anything, but he worked on the same manuscript for like the last 30 years of his life. Just going to show that you can really just over edit and just never
Yeah,
stop if you let
it
yourself.
happens.
Yeah. So yeah, like we used to go to lunch. I would do office work for him and we would go to lunch and he would like read Writer's Digest and I would be like writing something. So yeah, I've been writing like seriously since I was probably about 12.
Mm.
So just like constantly and trying with the aim of like improving my craft. But yeah, I honestly don't remember really how I got into it. It just kind of happened and it just feels like it's always been there.
Yeah, when I started my publishing business, my mom actually sent me a box of my first books that I wrote. And like the first one was when I was 7, and apparently it was like a class project where like she laminated the books, and so we had like we were published by her publishing company, you know? And
Yeah,
it's
I
like
did have so I have one book, this might be from middle school, but it might be elementary school, where they gave us like a blank book and then we wrote like we did all these poems in class and then we wrote our poems in these books, so we had like a book of poetry. I did do in probably like third and fourth grade in Michigan, they had the things where like the schools could send in poetry by their students. So
hmm,
I had poetry published in like third and fourth grade and
yeah,
like anthologies of like young Michigan poets that like
yeah,
no one ever heard of unless they were in the anthology.
yeah.
Yeah, and I did find at some point I was going through my stuff and I found like class assignments where I did stories in like second grade. I do have my first novel. It was only 50 pages, but to me that was a novel at the time.
I
From when
mean,
I
that's
was
a good
12.
novella
It
length.
was, yeah, it was not, it was very lovingly hand-bound. And I remember I was not using Word. I used like Microsoft Publisher or something. And the formatting got all messed up because Publisher, like if you think that old-timey Word was like bad for formatting, like Publisher somehow was worse, even though
Yeah.
also it was supposed to be better. And so like at some point I had like a page number in the middle of the page. So like Baby E just like lovingly whited it out with white nail polish because they had no whiteout. And like the cover's all hand drawn and
Love
everything, and
it.
it's very like very extra.
I love it. I mean, we kind of have to be extra in order to be authors.
A little bit, yeah. I think now the extraness stays kind of on the page, but at the time, although recently I've been getting back into, so like when I was in middle school, I loved like taking the time to find the perfect font for my book before drafting. And I've gotten back into that. Like I will send my editor like a properly formatted manuscript that's all Times New Roman. But like when I'm doing it for myself, I have like a fancy like one font for the chapter title, and then
Hmm.
I have like a drop cap in the same font because I think that looks cool. And I have, I just like do all this formatting and then I have to undo it to send it to my editor. But I'm like, just for me, this just, it
Yeah.
helps my process
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
fancy
So
fonts.
when was the papyrus days?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. That was one of my favorites, bro. Like,
I love that. So did all of your schooling contribute to writing career, or was it separate?
I think I was mostly separate. I did do, like, I couldn't take, that's not true. In middle school, we had, I don't remember how this even happened. So it wasn't like a regular class. Like this older gentleman came to school to teach us creative writing if we wanted to. So like I got out of my regular classes at like a set time every week to go take
So
writing lessons from this guy.
yeah.
Don't remember how that even happened. It's actually kind of bonkers that they would just let us skip class to go to a
Yeah.
more class, but not
That sounds
completely.
like a gifted kid program.
Yeah, I that's probably the closest I've ever come to actually being in one because I don't think any of my schools had them. But I did always do really well in school, so I feel like that was probably the justification.
Mm,
So there was that in probably middle school, and then high school, you could not take the creative writing class until your senior year for whatever reason.
mm,
So then as soon as I was a senior, I was like, hell yeah, we're gonna take the creative writing class. Yeah, but like I was originally in college, I was an education major
mm,
originally. I finished with an English degree only because I had to finish with something and I wanted to go get my Master of Organizational Leadership. But
mm.
yeah, so I have like a little bit, like I have a couple writing classes here and there, but like I don't have a degree in writing and there wasn't a lot of, probably more than the average person gets, but like less than the average person who goes to school for writing.
Did the organizational leadership contribute to your business skills in the writing realm later on at all?
I don't think so. It was really, so I always describe it as like, because everybody's like, what the hell's in Master of Organizational Leadership? I always describe it as an MBA, but for nonprofits, but that's not really
Mm.
accurate because you have a couple business classes which were very terrible and they hated having me in because I'm like just very, like they'd be like, and the leader laid off 30,000 people and saved the company. And I'd go, but what about those 30,000
Yeah,
people?
yeah.
And they'd
Wait
be
a
like,
minute. Wait a
stop
minute.
it. You're not supposed to ask that. You're just supposed to look at the company. And I'm like, I can't though. So I was like a very bad person to have in those classes, which is why I did not get an MBA. I would have been a nightmare. It would have been
Yeah.
great. But it's really a more like you had some business classes, but it's first and foremost like a leadership program, which is the biggest joke on earth because I hate being in charge of anything. Like my day job is as an administrative assistant, and sometimes I end up making decisions because none of the faculty members will do it. And someone has to say something, so I'll say something and they all just go along with it. And I'm like, stop it. This is why I'm an administrative assistant, so I don't have to be in charge and make these decisions. And like my thesis was like on followership, which is like the one area of leadership that has nothing to do with leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's the biggest joke in the world that I have a leadership degree, but I thought that I wanted to like do more with nonprofits, so
Hmm.
I got it and I have it if I ever, really decide to get back into that more. But yeah, it was really leadership focused as opposed to business focused. So
Hmm.
I don't know that it has particularly helped except to remind me that I need to just like be a good person and follow my values.
Hmm.
Because of again, because of the followership thing, because that's all about like like what we're going through right now as a nation, or as a globally, where like if you are a good follower, that does not just mean doing whatever the leader says. Sometimes that means criticizing the leader and,
Hmm.
acting against them and it just depends on the circumstances.
Yep.
Um, so like it reminds me of that, but it doesn't directly translate to marketing skills at all.
Well, I would honestly argue that about following your values because marketing is so it's a value distribution system.
I guess so. I guess I don't think, but see, I probably don't think of it that way because I never had that kind of business class. Maybe then I would have been like, oh, that's actually kind of nice. And that's.
I've been thinking a lot of it lately about value signaling and how, because this is one of the questions that I got at the conference that I went through for a couple weeks ago, is how I can like immediately identify whether people are my people or not. Like if they walk by my table, I can be like, oh, I need to talk to you in particular. And like it's just various visual value signals that I pick up from people. And I attribute it to my art history training because I can visually analyze really well. But people think it's a magic skill that I have.
I think I can at least tell when people are not my people. Like if I'm sitting there at an event where I'm hand selling books and I'm being very visibly queer and I have the pronouns pin on and everything, and someone walks by in like a MAGA hat or something, I'm like, that is not
Yeah.
my person. That
Yeah.
person does not want to talk to me, and frankly, I don't want to talk to them either.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I've discovered that anyone who has D&D merch on is my kind of person. Anyone who has brightly colored hair, purple, pink, green, blue, probably my kind of person. Also heavily tattooed. If they have the three combo, they are definitely my kind of person. And then fourth is the queer spectrum. If I see anything like queer identifying on them, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah. I just have, I don't know if this is because I'm neurodivergent. Like I'm autistic and I have ADHD. So I don't know if it's just that or something else, but I also just struggle. It's much easier for me at hand selling events if someone comes up to
Hmm.
okay, you know what else it is that as a consumer, I hate it when I go even into a store and a salesperson I'm like, just leave me alone. I just want to browse. And if I need anything, I see you, you're right there. I will come ask you. And so as a seller, I do not like to bother people unless they come up to me first.
Yeah.
Like if someone's just walking by trying to avoid eye contact, even if they otherwise look like they might be interested in what I'm selling, I'm like, oh, leave that person alone because that's me at the mall backing past the kiosks of like hair products where they're like, don't you want beautiful straight hair? And I'm like, no, leave me alone with my curls. Just let me be a person. Leave me alone. So I think it's partially also that, but I'm very bad. Like I cannot draw people to my table except by what I put on my table.
Hmm.
But as a person, I can't do it. But only just whatever I have. And frequently, what I have works, which is nice. But that's the only way I can do it because I will not make first contact. I'm like, no, no, they have to come to me, and then I will happily tell them more than they want to know about my book. But they have to come to me first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the expert at like catching their eye contact and then like just smiling at them in the right way. And then they're like, oh, hello there.
Oh, I'm so bad at that. Like, if it happens, we both just smile awkwardly and they probably keep walking. Which is also what happens when I'm like out on a walk and somebody's coming the opposite direction and we're both trying to decide whether or not to look. And then we do look and then we both regret it. And we just like keep
I
walking.
mean, I completely charmed a cleaning woman at the hotel at the event 2 weekends ago. And I was like, she kept going by doing her cleaning duties. And I was like, you're going to come by and buy a book one of these trips. And she was
Ah,
smiling and laughing. And I was like, I see you.
See, I don't know that I tend to charm the service people because I spent so long in service that I just like I'm always like,
That's,
hey,
I
like
think
I'm
that's the thing. Like
you
you
know.
said, the people in the kiosks at the mall, I was those salespeople. I was the one that was like, let me play with your hair.
Honestly, if that's how they'd word it, maybe I'd go up to them. But it's always, don't you want beautiful straight hair? And like, it took me a long time to love my curls. You
No,
can't tell I have
I,
curls because my hair's up because it's up like 90% of the time. But I have curly hair, and it took me a long time to like my curly hair. And every time I go at a mall kiosk and they say, don't you want beautiful straight hair? I'm like, do not undo 20 years of work. Please
no,
let
I
me have my
learned
curls.
very quickly to phrase it as let me play with your hair. That was
Right,
the
that
best
just
way.
sounds fun. And
I
also,
know, because they just
kind of
sit in my
feels good when
chair. I
people,
played with their
yeah,
hair, da 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 da. We chatted. Maybe I sold the
yeah,
straightener,
that'd be
maybe
so
I
much more. So
didn't.
what I'm hearing is that those people need to take like a marketing class or something. It's like, they need something to draw me in instead of drive me away.
Yep, yep, yep. So now that we've transitioned into marketing, do you hate it? Do you love it? Does it go well for you? Is it a challenge? Hit me with it.
I prefer not to think of it because I'm like, first of all, I'm like, this is why I am not self-published because I don't have a salesman's bone in my body and I don't want to be in charge of my own sales. So, so I'm always a little bit like, I'm like, the publisher should just be marketing and I just shouldn't have to. And then sometimes I am reminded very starkly that in fact I can occasionally inspire sales by doing marketing. Like specifically, so this has happened twice now on Blue Sky. So not like marketing posts because I'm very bad at those and I hate doing them. And usually I do one and then I'll just reshare it a few times. I'm like, I'm not doing more than one of those. They're boring and I hate doing them and they take time and I could have been writing. Okay, I probably would have just been scrolling social media, but I could have been writing and instead I was marketing.
I at least could have been reading.
Right. Like at least in theory, I could have been writing, but instead I was on Canva making a promotional graphic. Ooh, whatever. But on other occasions, like there was, I don't remember what the first one was at all. Oh, maybe it was birds. It might have been birds because that's like my thing. And there are a lot of birds in the book that just came out in March, The Keeper of Lonely Spirits. So I think I did a thread on birds. I definitely did. The second one was I did a thread on name usage in the book because it's a whole thing. And like there's a theme around name usage that you can find in pretty much anything I write, but it's like strongest in this book. It was done very intentionally. Sometimes readers notice it, which is like awesome. Although if readers don't notice it, I'm like, cool, it's not all clunky and awkward, so that's good too. So I did a whole thread on like this name thing, and then somebody commented and was like, "Oh, I just bought the book because I saw it on this thread." And I was like, "Damn it, marketing works." And then it was like the second time that it happened because last time I did a thread about whatever I did a thread about in the book, somebody commented and was like, "Oh, I just bought your book because of this thread." And I was like, "Damn it!" Like,
What a concept.
I hate being reminded that marketing works, in fact, but I just don't like to think about it because I'm not. But I think the difference though is that when I do those threads, like I am not thinking of it as I am marketing. I'm
Yeah,
just like, I think this name thing is really fun and interesting, and it was really a pain in the ass to do, but I'm very proud of how it turned out, and
yeah,
I would like to talk about it whether anyone else cares or not. So I'm just kind of talking to myself on this
yeah.
thread. Like, if any of you are interested, great, but I'm here just because this is fun for me. And I guess that counts as marketing.
I
I do
mean, I
like,
honestly wish more authors realize that. Like, that is one of the most common conversations that I have with people who are like, I hate marketing. I don't want to do it. Da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, connecting with your audiences can actually be fun. And there is a difference between marketing and sales. Because I think marketing is value distribution. You're just showing, your vibe, and your vibe will hopefully attract your tribe at some point in time.
yeah, I did think about that. So a couple weeks ago, I was at Columbus Book Festival as a featured author, which was awesome because I've been wanting to do that since they started like 3 years ago. And I thought about that there, especially because the last panel I had, which was at like the end of the day, the last
Mm,
day of the
mm,
festival. So I
that's
was like,
rough.
yeah, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go because of just when it is. And it's like really hot out because it's Ohio in July, and this one's outdoors under just an
Ooh.
author stage. Um, Whole author stage area, standing room only. There were people sitting outside in the sun, just like listening. Like it was a packed panel, which was
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah, I was like, cool. All you people stayed for this apparently. And then all three of us who were on the panel had like pretty big signing lines, and I
Wow.
was I was very much like I was like this weekend has been marketing. Like I'm just here like this is a fun event for me.
Yeah.
But it did remind me that like events actually, even if I'm not personally selling the book, just being somewhere visible to readers and interacting with readers and like doing panels and stuff, which is fun for me, tells them about this book they didn't know about.
Yeah. 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 I talk about that all the time. It's like, one, we're presumably doing this because we enjoy
Yeah.
it. Like we enjoy some process of the whole writing, packaging the writing, presenting the writing to a public audience. And two, it is fun when you meet people who are like, yes, writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a great time. I did two panels. I also did do author speed matching, which is literally like speed dating, but you have like a table of readers and you just go from table to
Oh,
table.
wow.
So that's that. I think it was done really well there because so I did the same thing for booksellers back in October. My that I was invited to, and then my publisher sent me to the Heartland Movable Feast.
Hmm.
So I was like pitching my book directly to booksellers, and I had like I think like 3 minutes there, and that was too long because I am very efficient at pitching my book, and I did not realize it was going to be like feel like that long. And so this time I came kind of prepared. It was still sort of too long, but like they had, it was like 10 minutes, but it was like 2 minutes of just you pitching, and then the rest was supposed to be questions. And the organizers put out question suggestions on the table so that if the readers did not have questions, they could just pick one up and read it,
That's
which people
brilliant.
did. Yeah, it was great. It was so well organized. And actually most of the readers did have questions, which was even better. But like that, like I feel so silly. Like I do it because I like in theory I enjoy it, but then when I get there, I'm like, I don't actually enjoy this as much. And I just end up telling everybody about the biggest week in American birding and pretending I'm marketing because it's in the book. And I do tell them what the tie-in is, so it counts. And I mention the name of the book, it's fine. But the panels are like really like that's what's really fun for me because I get to talk like this, like I got to talk about characters, which is great because as a fantasy writer, usually I end up on world building panels.
Hmm.
And I'm like, maybe this is a hot take as a fantasy writer, but I don't care about world building that much. I care about the characters. The world building is just this extra thing that's happening to make the fantasy novel work. I'm really here for characters, but I never get to talk about them because I'm a fantasy writer. So I got to talk about characters. We sort of talked about all sorts of things in the second panel. It was like on gentle magic because we all write like cozy books.
Hmm.
But we talked about all sorts of different things, and the moderator asked questions, like specific questions about our books and stuff. So then I got to talk about the biggest week in American birding with permission. That was better. So like it was just really a lot of fun. Like I just get to talk about parts of the craft that I love and talk about my book, but again without like I think the thing about doing author speed matching, where I like it in theory because I do get to talk to readers, but on the other hand, first of all, not all of the readers in the room are even into your genre. So some of them are just kind of waiting for your turn to be done so they can get to the next author they're really
Hmm.
interested in. And then also, like, pitching the readers directly definitely feels more like marketing with a capital M and the
Yeah.
thing I don't like to do. Whereas being on a panel is just like, here's this author whose book is for sale in our festival bookstore, and if you like what they say on this panel, you can go buy it. And then I just get to talk about fun stuff and not even think about it as marketing.
Yeah.
And people come through my signing line, and I'm like, cool, people bought the book.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Does your publisher sign you up for these events, or is that something that you find on your own?
It'd be nice if my publisher would sign me up for these events. Columbus Book Festival, I was actually invited to this year. But I did so I was invited, and I let my publisher know I was like they're going to be inviting me because someone who was from my debut year is like involved, like she's one of the organizers. So she
Hmm.
let me know I was going to be invited,
Hmm.
and she was like, if your publisher, in case your publisher does not submit the thing for you, you can also just submit it, and if we don't hear anything from them, I'll just contact you, and we'll make sure you get here. And I was like, cool. So that's
Okay.
what happened is I did end up submitting myself, but I was invited, so that was cool. Heartland Movable Feast I was invited to, but then my publisher did send me, and that's the kind of thing I think as an author I could not have done myself, I'm
Hmm.
sure. So yeah, so I think there are some things that there are definitely things the publisher can do that I cannot. Like they can pitch me to like Barnes and Noble, and they can, whoever else. I don't know what all they're doing stuff. Trade reviews, and I think as an author you can submit yourself to some places for trade reviews, but I would not want to. So it's nice that they're doing like that sort of thing. So yeah, so I tend to look more for the events, just because I don't know that they're gonna, and I
Hmm.
like going to events if I can. But they do other things that I could not do and have less interest in doing myself, which is
Yeah.
nice.
How many events do you go to a year, would you say?
Good question. So my first year, I did like an event a month from April when the book came out all the way until like November, and that was too
Whoa.
many. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was too many. So then the next year I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I didn't, but then instead I had like two events a month for fewer months, and I was like, this was still too many. And this year so far, I think I did some events the week of release because I always take a week off work for release week so that I can just focus on book stuff. And then July's been busy because I had Columbus Book Festival, and then I just road tripped to Iowa for an event at Dog Eared Books. It was like a cocktails and conversations. So it was like kind of doing a panel, but just by myself and all about my book, which was really fun. And then like I stopped at some other bookstores on the way back and like signed stock there and things. But I think my next event is not until October, actually. So this year, I am finally succeeding at not doing as many events. Partially because like with as an author with a day job, I only have so much PTO, so there's that I always have
Yeah.
to consider. And how much money an hour I make and how much I can afford to go to events, especially unpaid events. And then also just being neurodivergent, like like you get FOMO. Like you don't you're like you just want to say yes to everything,
Yeah.
which is definitely what happened my debut year, where I just want to say yes to everything and I ended up doing an event a month. But like I really need to be more cognizant of the fact that like I only have so much social energy and I cannot in fact do all that. Even in Columbus, they had a quiet room for authors to go sit in if we needed space away, which I really appreciated.
That's great.
And before the author speed matching, I was like, I'm gonna go sit in that room for like an hour before the speed matching. But then I was in the author lounge and I was talking to other authors and I was having a great time and I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then the second I left to go to author speed matching, I was like, oh, I have made a mistake. I needed the quiet room and I did not go. So like it's just that kind of thing where like technically I could probably do more events than I'm doing this year, but from the past, I'm like, that is actually exhausting and I need to preserve myself if I want energy to like write the next book, which is kind of important to your career as an author. Like probably the single most important thing is to be
Yeah.
writing the next book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do like a decreasing number of events, but I did apply to like another one for February, so I should know by like November if I've gotten into that one, and then I don't know, we'll go from there and see what else I get myself into.
Yeah. Have you ever run into creative burnout? I know so many authors do.
Yeah, actually, this year really because so the next book was my first book that I like drafted on deadline, which was not fun. Did not
Yeah.
I like the job security that comes with a multi-book deal, but I do not like drafting on deadline. That was terrible. So I wrote it and it was too short and like lots of brackets, just like this scene happens here because I didn't know how.
Insert something.
Yeah, just huge swaths of brackets. Like it was 80,000 words, but with the brackets, it would have been so much longer if it had been all written. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
And then I was like, can I please have a deadline extension? Because this is so terrible. Like my editor had said, she was like, I promise you, however bad your first drafts are, I have seen just as bad or worse. It doesn't matter if you literally just have a bracket that says fight scene here instead of a chapter. It's fine. And I was like, I hear what you're saying, but no, nobody ever sees my first drafts but me and like one friend to hype me up.
Yes.
You do not get to
Same.
see this.
Same. My best
You
friend
can
is
see
the
a messy,
only,
you know,
she's the only
right.
one.
Yeah, I'm like, you can see a very messy second draft, but you cannot see this first draft. So I got a deadline extension and I rewrote the whole thing and then I sent her that. And then as I sent her that, I had an idea and I was like, but you don't even have to read this because I just had an idea for a whole new direction for the book to go in and it's going to be totally different. But I'm going to let you read this though actually and take a break because I can tell I need one and then I'll write that later. And then 2 days later, I sent her a full synopsis of the new version. And then I turned around and started writing it again and I knew I needed a break, and I was like, no, I can do this. I've got this idea. I'm gonna do it. And so then I worked on that, and a lot slower because she had something, so I worked on that a lot slower. And then she hadn't gotten to it by like I don't know like January February, and so my agent was like, well, do you want what you have, or do you want the version he's working on now? And she was like, oh, I'll take the new version. And then I was like, I'm on deadline again, and it is my own fault because I had to turn around and write this book immediately. So from like August to April, I just rewrote this book like 1,000 times. And so then like by April, I was like, okay, so I turned it in like April 1st and I was like, I need a break. But writing is like my whole thing. So it is very hard for me to take a break Because my idea of a break is, well, if it's not on deadline and no one asked for it, then it doesn't count as writing. So it counts as a break, which is the devil talking. Like, that's not
Yeah.
true. I'm still writing. I'm using all the same creative muscles. It is not a break, but I can pretend it's a break. So this year it helped that I was like formatting my short stories to put up online, and then there was Easter break, and I work at a Catholic university, so I had like 6 days off from work, and I had the dormer to paint in our house, so I spent 6 days just like painting a room and listening to my own audiobook, interrupted by The Adventures of Dogman, as narrated by my 7-year-old nephew via FaceTime, and and then by the end of that, I was so used to not just coming home and getting on my computer that I did actually, I think, finish out April or almost finished out April without, like, I did a pretty good job mostly. I wrote like an 8,000 word fic of my main character from the last book going to an Irish cultural festival because he's Irish but he's cursed and he can't go back to Ireland. And I was like, what if he went to an Irish cultural festival? So I did write that, but that was like very fun, and I just wrote it like very quickly and just like sent it to a friend just for the hell of it. But mostly I did not write for the month of April, which I severely needed. I think I did a lot more. I got back into like doing linoleum prints. I hadn't done them since high school, and I
Wow.
needed one for a wall. And instead of buying one, I was like, what if I just bought the supplies? And I did it. And now I'm like really into them, and I've done a bunch of them. So yeah, so I eventually, so like not like total creative burnout, but definitely like I needed a break from writing specifically, and like to go work on other creative things and to just do other stuff that was not writing.
Yeah.
Um, and this is probably the first time in my life that I successfully took a break when I realized that I was at that point. Because, like I said, normally if I'm like, oh yeah, I need a break from writing, then I just mean I'm gonna not work on this thing that I'm supposed to be working on, but I'm gonna keep working on these things that I don't need to be working on, and that's a break. And it is not. So I really took a break this year. But
Yeah.
yeah, it does happen occasionally, and probably my single biggest fear as an author is that one day I will just burn out on writing, and God knows if I will ever do it again. And I'm very afraid of that happening, so I try to be aware of when I'm like approaching that point.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like going forward, you have better idea of balance. Like not only the whole like balancing writing time and marketing time, but also balancing like writing on time and writing
Yeah,
off time.
yeah, yeah. I definitely feel like I have more of a tendency now to come home, because that was my thing for so long, was I would just come home from work and immediately get on my laptop, and maybe I'd write, maybe I wouldn't, but the intent was there. And I'm much better now about like I come home and I practice guitar for a little bit, or I come home and I like sweep the floor, and I come, just like things, just anything, literally anything that is not writing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you had to sum up a lesson for our audience, what would the lesson that you impart be?
Sure. So regarding marketing, I suppose. Um, so I think it is just what we've kind of touched on already, that it does not have to just be like directly pitching your book.
Mhm.
Like if something you enjoy doing or talking about, whether that is a thing in your book that you just want to like highlight that because it's a thing you really enjoy doing or you're really proud of, or an event where you're doing a panel. Like marketing does not have to look like, here is a graphic with like my trope map or the book summary or a sale that's going. Like it doesn't have to look like that. It can
Yeah.
look like just connecting with people in a way that is fun to you. And I will forget this lesson again, but then I'll relearn it the next time I make a thread on Blue Sky and someone comments like, "Oh, I just bought your book because of this thread," and then that will remind me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my favorite part of marketing is just being able to nerd out all day. Like I tell people I live the dream because I just nerd out about books all day. Like 10-year-old Claire would be so happy. Is that a part of the business lessons for you at the end of the day, or is that a part of just like being a creative at the end of the day?
Mm. I mean, I guess both, because as a creative, I like to do these things. I like to talk about the name use in my book and be like, probably no one else will care about this, but I'm going to write a thread anyway because it's fun to me. Or just having literally a built-in excuse now to talk about the biggest week in American birding because it's in my book. So I get to talk about it forever as an author. Sorry to anyone who is not into birding. You are going to learn it whether you like it or not. So like as a creative, literally it's just fun for me, but it definitely is a business lesson that again, I will forget it again, but hopefully I keep relearning it and like being reminded of it in the future and perhaps eventually I will internalize the lesson and not need reminding anymore.
Yeah, yeah, we can all hope. Well, anything you want to add before we start wrapping up?
No, I think that's it unless you want to learn about the biggest week in American birding.
You know, I'm okay. I will read your book and learn it that way.
You will learn it that way. Anybody who wants to know can find me on social media. I've definitely talked about it. I will talk about it again. Like, it'll happen. It's
Yeah.
inescapable.
I mean, at this point, you've talked about it so much that I need to know about it, but I will absorb
In
that
the interest of
information.
time.
Yes, I will absorb that information on my own. Well, this is powerful stuff that we're talking about here. And audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights with us as well. We'd love to know how, whether you consider them marketing strategies or not, how they have impacted you in your own writing careers. And please do let us know if you have any questions. I know we banter a lot of vocabulary around in these podcasts that you may or may not know the definitions for. We don't really have a glossary of terms at the beginning of these podcasts. So please do reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. Special thanks to Ian for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, these are always great conversations, and I'm always like just filled with writer joy at the end of them. Please comment, like, subscribe below. Check out Linktree/Claire Joins for my links. And then where can folks find out more about you?
Yeah, so I am most active on Blue Sky and Instagram at it's Eliz M. Anderson. On Blue Sky, it's elizmanderson.com, which is also my website. And then my newsletter, which goes out roughly once a month, is buttondown.com/Eliz M. Anderson.
Love that. And I'll make sure the links are easily accessible for you guys in the notes. And until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and we're rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, guys.